One more minute, it's 10 o'clock straight up. So I'm going to wait 1 minute just in case we have some other people joining us shortly. Thank you, Beth. All right, 35 plus 36, and I think we can go ahead and get started. So Beth, do we have visitors in the house? Observers and guests?
Sorry, I wasn't looking at the attendees screen. Let me get in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe we do, yes.
Okay, great. So just as a reminder to our guests who are observing, you have a right and we want you to be here to observe. You do not participate. So I just want to remind you that. And we'll go over some other details here in a second. So welcome everybody. I am Joe Batraka. I'm the Associate Director in the Office for Exceptional Children. And I have the thrill of facilitating these meetings along with our chair, Sarah Lee. Sarah, show yourself, give a wave.
Good morning, everyone.
Yay. And I'd like to I'll tell you just a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm the Associate Director in the Office for Exceptional Children. I've been here since last April. So what is that, 18 months or so? And one of the great joys that I have in my job duties is to assist with Gifted Advisory Council. And I look forward to these meetings and look forward to connecting with everybody. Last meeting, I was not able to be here. So here's the story with that. So we have something that we call a guiding coalition. And that group is going to help us with our Students with Disabilities plan that we're working. And at first I was told, okay, come as soon as Gifted Advisory Council's over. Awesome. And then it was, well, get Gifted Advisory Council started and then come. So about 10:30. I'm like, I can do that. And then it was, oh no, you're presenting. So I was not able to make it. So I'm sorry about that. But we're here today, and it is great to see everybody who has joined us. So that's a little bit about me. What I'd like to do too is also acknowledge our gifted team, as I just knocked my laptop over. Maria Lohr, who's our assistant director, and Jeff Shoemaker and Mike Demchek. So you guys want to come on camera and give a quick wave?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Great to see you.
Yeah, you know, talking to people virtually when you're in a situation like this is weird because, you know, those of us who do a lot of presentations, we feed off of the audience, or at least I do. I can't see anybody. All I see is names. So I don't know. I can't read anybody like, ooh, did I just say something that made people angry, or are they laughing? So let's continue and see how this goes today. All right, so I just want to remind everybody of our meeting norms. And these become important, especially in a virtual world. So what I think is really important is our next to last bullet: pay attention to self and others. Be respectful as well. If you do have questions, you can put them in the chat box as we're moving on. You can raise your hand, and between Beth, Maria, Jeff, and I, and Sarah, we'll look to see who has their hand raised. And if you can also go on camera as well. So let's see what happens with that. All right. So that is our introduction of our council. Did I hit everybody on the council? Who am I missing? See, this is what happens when the elderly get hired. We're forgetful. And you'll see me looking off to the side quite a bit because that's where all my notes are, because I'm too old to remember things anymore. And I know it's going to make me look shifty. So I'm looking off to my other screen, which has all of my notes on it so I don't forget. All right, Maria, who am I missing?
Yeah, I would say we probably want to also say hello to Kurt, who is our past chair.
Oh,
Kurt,
yeah. Kurt, where are you? Come on camera, Kurt, and give a wave.
Good morning. Great to be here this morning.
Ah, there he is. Great. We're glad you're here. And our BFF, Ann. Are you on, Ann Sheldon? Uh-oh, Ann might not be here yet. All right. So we'll talk about Ann then until she gets on, and let's assign her tasks. That'll teach her to be late. All right, so that's introductions of council members and ODE staff. Woohoo! All right, so our I wanted to go over very quickly before we get into the rest of our agenda, our office structure. And you know, when I was out working, I knew about OEC, knew about the structure, but really didn't pay too much attention to it. And this has come up time and again with superintendents, pupil personnel directors, like we don't really know the structure of the office. So I thought I'd just take a minute or two to share that with everybody today. So Johanna Ward is our director. Johanna was named director last January, and she was executive director in another office. And her heart has always been with OEC. She was an assistant director for our resource management team. And I don't know if Johanna, she accepted, but I don't know if she's here. Johanna, are you here? All right, she might be. I know she's in back-to-back meetings today, so hopefully we'll be able to see Johanna. And then we have two associate directors. Monica Dravoda is my partner in crime, my co-conspirator as we call each other. And you can see the assistant directors under her with the sections that report to each assistant director up that chain to Monica. So Heidi Kleinman is our assistant director for dispute resolution. And dispute resolution is the group that, well, it's just what the name implies. So when there is a special education complaint, mediation or facilitation request, it goes through our section that Heidi oversees. Andrea Faulkner has been with ODE for a couple of years, but she is our new assistant director for our urban support team. She replaces Chrissy Klein. Chrissy wanted to go back to dispute resolution where she was a program specialist. So Andrea and the urban support team is just what that name implies. It supports our 11 urban districts, and this group is required from what we call our DOE settlement agreement. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this or followed this, but Ohio recently settled, oh my gosh, I think about a 30-year-old lawsuit with Disability Rights Ohio and how we monitor special education. And in part of that settlement agreement, we have created an urban support team to provide concentrated supports to our 11 urban districts in the state. And then Shelley Beard is the assistant director for supports and monitoring. And that's the group that goes out and monitors districts with special education compliance. And then you have my side. So those of you who were on the council last year would listen to me whine about this. So when I had started, our other associate director left, purely a coincidence. Shortly after, the previous director left, again, a coincidence. And the three assistant directors who reported to me also left. Again, in my mind, I'm calling that a coincidence. So for up until the end of November, I basically did my job and 4 assistant director jobs. Somebody asked me, wow, how did you hold it all together? Duct tape and ribbon. That's my answer. So we have a full administrative, okay, it's not going to get any funnier, so just telling you now. So we have a full contingency now of an admin team. So Sarah Boney is our newest assistant director, and she supports diverse learners, of which gifted used to be a part of until we broke that out, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So Sarah, with the diverse learners team, is just what that name implies. In that group is related services, so that's school psych, speech paths, OTPT, alternate assessment, literacy, and I'm getting a text from Ann. She needs a different link to the meeting. Hers isn't working. Beth, can you send Ann a quick email?
Yes, I'm going to resend the link to everyone.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm telling her, look for it shortly. And students with sensory disabilities, low incidence students as well. Kara Waldron is in charge of our data team. And that's a small but mighty team, but they do all the special education data analyses. Sarah James is also new, and she's our assistant director for resource management. So that's the money. And that goes in from the CCIP. And Maria Lohr, as you found out at our last meeting, is our assistant director for gifted. So I think the powers that be got tired of listening to me whine about doing all of those jobs, as well as, you know, we need our own assistant director for gifted. And I think they saw the need. Now, here's just something kind of fun about this. We have the largest office at ODE. And let's see, about 64 people provide support for special education. 3 people, I guess 4 if you count me, but I can't be counted on, so maybe I'm half, support gifted. We have nearly the same number of gifted students in this state identified as we do students with special education. So our gifted team does all of the things that our various sections do. They investigate complaints, just like dispute resolution. They provide support to our urban support teams. They provide support and monitoring to our districts. They are involved with our diverse learners team, and especially with students that are twice exceptional. We get our data support from Michelle Neubauer, who's been here before, but they also do data analyses. And maybe about the only thing they don't do is the money side of things. So that is our office structure. And thanks for kind of tolerating me going through this. And Ann is in with us. Ann, come on camera and wave to everybody. She says she's in. I just called you out, Ann.
Can you see me?
Oh, we hear you. Yay.
All right, well, I'm gonna go back on mute. I can
Oh,
see
there you
me.
There you are. Good. We're glad you're here. Glad you finally got in. We assigned you tasks. That'll teach you to be late. No, we didn't. We didn't, honest. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the OEC office structure? You can raise your hand or you can just come right on camera. All right. Barring any questions. Oh, Kurt, did you have a question? You came on camera. Nope. Good.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I guess my only question, this is just kind of a rhetorical question here. What do we need to do to get more folks at ODE to support the gifted team to balance things out a little bit?
Be patient as we move through the process. So right now we have 13 openings in all of OEC. one of those openings being to replace Maria's position. And we just pushed through all of our paperwork over the past 2 days to get those positions filled because the governor has put on a hiring freeze. So we are hoping that that doesn't happen to us because all of our positions, including gifted, are paid for out of federal funds and not state funds. So we are hoping to get things moving. So just be patient as we build and rebuild. Right? Good things are happening. And I think it's a good time to be a student, not only with a disability in Ohio, but it's a good time to be a student who's identified as gifted in Ohio, in large part because of the work of this council, Anne's advocacy, and our quiet pushing behind the scenes to make things happen. So I think good things are happening despite the pandemic. All right. So now we have to talk about our chair-elect. And that'll be, I think, the next slide. So we had, Beth had sent out the duties of the chair-elect, and you could see those up on the screen. And it's kind of a commitment, technically in some ways 3 years. You serve this, you'd serve the remainder of this year. The next year you move to the role of chair. And then after that, the best job ever, past chair, I think we call it. So Kurt's Love and Life, he's the past chair. The demands are pretty light, but even the chair, we meet to plan today's event. So it's not too much of a heavy lift. And I think it's easier now also since we're remote. So we had, if I recall correctly, one person who was self-nominated, but I don't remember that name, but we would also entertain anybody else who would like to nominate themselves. Mike has set up a Mentimeter poll for voting if we need to, but would anybody like to nominate themselves or their friend? And if so, then we would tell us the name and we'll get it populated in our Mentimeter for voting.
Joe, this is Mike. Should we clarify who has been nominated already?
Yes, please, because I didn't put that in my notes, so of course I don't remember.
You want me to
Jackie
do that?
Roush, that was the name. Yes.
Yes, Jackie Roush.
Jackie, would you like to come on? And you were rocking that mask. Would you like to come on and wave?
Sure. Do you want me to talk about why I self-nominated?
Oh, sure. Why not?
I'm not committed to it. So if there's somebody else who really would like the job, that would certainly be fine. But I am sort of a natural introvert and I'm trying to challenge myself by taking some more leadership type roles. I've been in education for 19 years. I think this is my 10th year as a gifted coordinator with the Trumbull County ESC. And I've really enjoyed my work on the council here. And I think it's really important that we, get the proper students identified as gifted and then provide the services for those. So I'm just willing to help out, if nobody else wants to step up and do the chair for next year. Thank you.
That's awesome. And I don't know what screen we're seeing. Has somebody shared their screen with us then overtook Beth's screen? Oh, the joys of virtual meetings. But it's okay. It's nice to see people I knew in a previous life. Karen Rumley was on. So hi, Karen. All right. So I am not seeing anything in the chat, and I am not seeing anybody else wanting to nominate somebody. All right. It looks like if we can get consensus, and here would be something fun, why don't we do this? How about if everybody wants to nominate Jackie, how about if you hit the little hand bar where you can raise your hand? So all in favor of Jackie coming out of her shell and being named chair-elect, hit the hand raise. And anybody opposed, you can put that in the chat. How's that? With a frowny face or a no. All right, I think Jackie, winner, chicken dinner. So thank you, Jackie, for stepping up, and you'll have a good time. There's no secret handshake or anything.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
There is a tattoo, though, that we require that you get. I should have told you that before. A big G. That's sign language for G. Okay, so let's go into our October survey results. And I always like to share those. So we ask you to take a survey. And today, this time we got really smart. We're going to do the survey next time by SurveyMonkey. And it will calculate all these results for us rather than Beth having to do it by hand. But you can see that we had some great numbers. And I always feel it's important that we share not only the percentage, but kind of like I always call it the raw score. So if you can see the meeting purpose and objectives were clearly stated, 5% gave it a neutral, but that's one person. 5% sounds like a whole bunch of people, doesn't it? It's one individual. The meeting time was convenient. That's great. We shared decision making at this meeting. 15 out of 21. I think that's pretty high, but that comes out of at a 71%. All meeting participants were actively involved. So that's something that I do want to bring on. Remember, we are in a safe place. All voices need to be heard, and we need to do that without judging. It was kind of brought to my attention that in a few groups, people shot down others. That's not what we're about in this Gifted Advisory Council. Listen. Listen to the messages being said. We used our meeting time effectively. 17 out of 20 thought that we did. And satisfied with the meeting, mostly agreed or strongly agreed. And I'm glad that most enjoyed the meeting. And I think as we go on, virtual meetings are tough, aren't they? They can really take a toll after a while. And that's our world every day at ODE. And I don't know if you guys are experiencing the same thing. So I'm pretty proud of these and proud of these scores for our first time out. Hopefully this time our scores will even get higher. All right, Beth, do you want to hit the next slide, please? And then I always like to share the results. I'm not going to read these to you word for word because you have access to this, but I want to hit a couple of our highlights. So what parts of our meeting were particularly good? It was well organized, breakout sessions were good. Presenters are knowledgeable in their information that was shared. They sure are. Liked having the agenda ahead of time. Different points of views, that's great. And you can go to the next slide, Beth. Making sure that everybody was aware of the data. Again, breakout rooms, data clearly presented. Nice to get back together and having conversations again. Yep, for those of us returning. You can hit the next slide. What happens with the discussions from the subgroup? We're going to talk about that today. Action steps. Yeah, that's the hardest thing. So one of the things that we are doing in our office, for those of you who've heard of Brene Brown, we have a podcast club, and we're listening to Brene Brown weekly and talking about it. And I had never heard of this before. but she talks about action bias. Have you guys heard that before? Oh, of course, I can't see anybody. Action bias is jumping to solutions too soon before fully understanding what the problem is. And, you know, I sometimes use this phrase, I'm sure you've heard of it. Sometimes we have to go slow to go fast. And we're ready to move on, though. We're ready to start planning because we need to. And the more we delay, the more kids get hurt. So we're going to get there. We need to, and the last bullet, I think, kind of sums it up. The problem's been identified, but I don't feel like we've discussed solutions. You're right, we've not discussed solutions yet, but we're going to get there. And Beth, can you go to the next one? And in terms of improvement, one of the individuals wrote, it's hard to tell which people attending the meeting were actual council members and who was just watching. So I want to reiterate, if you are a guest today and you are observing, you are to observe, you are not to participate. You're welcome to go to a breakout room, but again, it's just as an observer, not as a participant. And when we go out to breakout rooms, I'm staying back in this room and you're welcome to stay here and talk with me, or you can go to a breakout room and observe the discussion, but you are not able to participate. And we know that having cameras on increases efficiency, but I do miss seeing people's faces, especially for my first meeting. So when you're in a breakout room, you can put your camera on, but let's try something. Let's try something for fun. See, this gets into my need for control and my need to be kind of like this little rebel. How about for 5 seconds, everybody turn on your camera. Let's see everybody. Let's see if we can crash teams. Are you ready? On the count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Turn your camera on. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that happens? I break it. That's all right. And then you can go to large gallery or gallery and you can start seeing everybody.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
I believe for everybody to see the gallery properly, I think Beth might have to stop showing her screen temporarily.
I don't know. I was able to hit large gallery and I can see everybody.
You can click on
Okay.
the little boxes down at the bottom and then, yeah, or go to large gallery view and then you can see everybody.
Yep,
So,
that
hello, everyone.
large gallery.
Look at all of us being all virtual. And teams didn't break, at least not yet. So this is like, are we the best looking gifted advisory council in the history of gifted advisory council or what? It's nice to see. It's nice to see everybody's face. Okay, now go off camera before I break it and get yelled at by the state superintendent for taking up all the bandwidth. Great, awesome. And I'm gonna, it is nice to see everybody. It is nice to see faces, so thank you. All right, and I need to just go back to gallery so I can get back to Beth's screen. All right, Beth, can you hit the next slide? Let's see where we're at. Uh-oh, maybe I did break teams. Maybe we lost Beth.
Nope, I'm showing the final slide in this section.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I can read. So one of our participants said, I'm curious about how the other discussions went. We'll talk about those. And yeah, you're right. It is a lot harder to get to know everyone this way. And maybe we think about next time. I don't know. That's why we had everybody do like their bio, so you can get to a sense of who everybody is that's on our council. So the next to the my breakout group needed help. A few people took over the entire conversation and others could not provide input. Remember that we are a team. Listen intently. Make sure that everybody's engaged. All of our voices are important to be heard. And Beth, can you hit the next slide? Any other suggestions? And the format was great. Somebody had written they appreciate the time to participate in the council. And you can hit the next slide. And what kind of changes are actually feasible? Yeah, that's going to be part of what we do as a council to talk about this and how we move on. And then the various subgroups at the last one. You're right, we do need to take a look at all of those. And Sylvia Rim put that in as well. So that's something that we also need to take a look at with our equity data. Beth, you can hit the next slide. Overall positive experience. And you're right, somebody said an electronic form instead of a Word doc. You're right. So we got smart, and you'll get us a link from Beth for a Survey Monkey, which will be great. I love this last bullet too. I read this a couple of times. What if gifted students were identified at the top 5% rather than the top 5% of the nation? Well, that's interesting. Just something to think about. And you can go ahead, Beth, and hit the next one. Let's see where we're at. You can see, I think there were, what, 21 pages of comments from people. Change takes time. You're right. And how can we finally fix this issue so that all children can have access to the best education? Yep. I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree with that next sentence, that school districts should not be subject to the passing of levies in order to educate our children. Next slide, Beth. And here we are. So we're going to hit next our strategy conversation, and then do breakout rooms and next steps and closing comments. And Maria had received an email. Maria, the gifted team, do you want to address this one point that came up? Do you want to do it now, or do you want to save it for the end?
We can talk about it now if we want to, because we got the team received a few different emails related to a recent Ohio education update that went out that was talking about funding, and there's a couple different pieces there in there. Special education funding, gifted funding, special education transportation funding. And for special education, I believe that was actually preschool special education funding. And just kind of a reminder, I think about data, making sure that relevant data was reported in there as the system was going to move to current year data. I believe, Mike, jump in if I'm misspeaking at all. And I think one of the reminders that we wanted to just give everyone is that funding for gifted is based on ADM, so average daily membership. So as long as the district has, reported average daily membership, then you should be okay. So unlike some other areas where it's funding's based on the particular number of students identified or things like that, here in Ohio it's average daily membership, so ADM. And we just wanted to give that reminder to everyone in districts, because that clarification might help, because we received this just went out yesterday. There were several emails that we've already gotten. So we don't want anyone to, worry about that. And so, Mike, is there anything to add to that?
Not that I'm I'm aware of. We know many of you have questions about that. It was in one of the Ohio Ed updates that go out from different centers, and this one was about finance, and it mentioned, as Maria said, together a couple different kind of funding streams, and it mentioned about districts and being careful about reporting certain data and updating their data. So feel free to send us questions about exactly what that meant, because we are looking into what pieces of data and any clarifications about that. And we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, but we did want to give everyone the reminder that gifted funding is based off of ADM, so average daily membership. So, not about having WEPs in place, not about percentage of students identified, but the ADM. So.
Great. All right. Thank you, Maria, for clarifying that. All right, let's head into the next part of our agenda. And that's our meeting breakouts and the themes. And I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to go off camera and mute myself and let the people that work for a living, Mike, Maria, and Jeff, take over.
All right, so what the team did is we went through, so each of the breakout sessions had a facilitator who took notes, and just a quick shout out to our facilitators. Everyone did wonderful job taking really detailed notes. And then what we did is we reviewed and we looked across the notes for themes that were present in not only in individual groups, but then also across the groups as well. So what you see here is kind of a compilation of those themes. Also, everyone, I believe, if that Beth either sent it out or the link to the gifted advisory folder has each of the individual notes from the different breakout groups are listed there and compiled. There's a document with all of that information in there if you want to see the individual talking points and discussions that were had in the different groups. So you're able to see that. But then we wanted to kind of talk about themes, overall themes, and then also allow for opportunity for council members if there are themes that you believe that, maybe we missed and we need to include here, have opportunity for a little bit of that discussion as well. So as you see, themes that were present were data confirming research and anecdotal evidence, that there's a perceived lack of teacher preparation and professional development for gifted, that there is an impact related to the diversity of teachers, including diversity of gifted teachers in the state, that regulations and policies for identification are limiting, that there's a sense of frustration from the lack of attention for gifted, and then also a sense of frustration for perceived lack of action. Again, identification protocols being a barrier, kind of related to the previous one. Then also there was discussion about feelings of a mismatch between the state definition and identification criteria, also mandate for identification and then not having a mandate for service. That's a bit of a mismatch as well. Educator beliefs, administrator beliefs are important and they matter. We need adequate funding and resources for gifted, misconceptions and narrow views about what it means to be gifted, that we need more of an emphasis for talent development, also questions about wanting to know, not only here in Ohio school districts, but then other states, what are practices that are having a positive impact on the issue of equity. And we need more data for services, and we would absolutely agree with that. That data is coming for you guys to review and look at. And then need for data for gifted educators and identification. All right, so so related to, I guess we can go back to the previous slide. So what we wanted to do is just have a little bit of time here for anyone from the council to kind of react to these themes that we pulled out. If you feel that there are themes that perhaps are that maybe we missed, there's a lot of information to kind of look through and compile, but if there's something like that that you feel would be important for us to take note of.
And it looks like Jennifer has her hand raised.
All right, Jennifer.
Hi, good morning. I'm making a connection.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
we're having a hard time hearing you. Uh-oh, I think I lost you.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, much.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it's my Bluetooth not working as well. All right, so the question I have is I'm connecting to something I saw on a previous slide, and I think I'd like to maybe dig a little bit more into how the high quality training fits for students who serve, teachers who serve, because we're talking about this mismatch between definitions and perceptions and services. And I'm just thinking about, as a GIS, what I'm being told is acceptable for HQT is not what I would perceive as acceptable. So I think maybe like going into how we are making sure that the teachers who serve the students are properly prepared for it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing, and that was definitely something that we saw reflected in a few different comments from a few different groups. So
Anne has her hand up.
all right, Ian.
I think there's just a general lack of accountability altogether, lack of accountability about what HQPD really should be, lack of accountability of how funds should be spent at the district level, lack of accountability in terms of our universal screening processes used in every district, all of these things that we're talking about come down to what's really happening in the districts and how do we know that there is quality identification, quality service, quality PD.
Anne, you just set up this next part just perfectly. It's like we didn't even rehearse this. So
glad to help out.
So one of the things I wanted to reiterate is the purpose of Gifted Advisory Council. Also, where we need to go. So what we want to do is develop like a strategic plan for gifted education in Ohio. And it's a process that's going to take us a while. Like, we're not going to get it done today. One of the things that we want to begin looking at is all of those things that just between Jennifer and Anne were brought up, as well as all of the themes, as well as all of the our data, and begin forming work groups around this. because here's what I envision, that our work groups then come back to us and we decide what are the most important things we need in order to move forward gifted education in Ohio. And then as a gifted advisory council, we'll decide that. And then we continue with our work groups and we start building plans so that our work groups can meet virtually now, not even during gifted advisory council, but on our own, on your own, and we can help facilitate those to build a plan. So let's say that we all agree that high quality PE is something we need to use and advance. That becomes part of our strategic plan. And so we would have a goal with outcomes and some measurements with all of that as well, so that we can address that as a need. I'm also hoping then that we can use this strategic plan for gifted education as a way to advance things and our cause with our legislature. So, do I have a little bit of a hidden purpose behind this? Yes, but I think it's in the end going to help our students. So that's where we want to go with our advisory council. And yeah, by law, there are certain things we have to do, and we can take care of those in the spring. But this is like, I want to take our advisory council and make it more than, yeah, we just discuss our numbers. Okay, you're right. Discuss our numbers and let's come up with a plan. So maybe one of our work groups focuses around equity, or equity becomes our overarching theme, and all of the pieces that we just talked about fall under that. That's going to be our task as the Gifted Advisory Council, as well as then the task of looking at what do we need to do? What are the important topics that we need to discuss as we build a strategic plan? There are so many. The hard part's going to be narrowing it down. So let's say HQPD, we believe in that, and yet we also can't do everything. So it's going to be important for us to narrow the focus, and while building something for, let's say, for 5 years. All right, I'm going to let that sink in. I know I said a lot, gave a lot of verbiage. All right, does anybody have any questions about that or concerns? Crickets. All right, crickets mean you agree. That's what I'm going with. All right, so we're getting ready to go into breakout rooms. Oh, now somebody raised their hand. Let's see who that is. That's, Dr. Rim.
Yes. I wonder, do we have parent representation on our council? Because, yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the council, I don't know if Maria shared with this with you guys last time. We had, for 10 seats, 160 plus applicants, which is awesome. Who knew it would be this big? And usually the council's been between 20 and 25. There were so many quality people who applied. It's like, it was hard to narrow it down to 30 to 35. I think that's about what we're at. So yes, there are parents. So we're getting ready to do breakouts, and Beth is going to put in the chat box, and I think it all works through the magic of Teams, an arbitrary grouping. So if you see your name, hit the meeting chat and you will go there. And if you're a guest, remember, you can join a team to observe, or you can stay back and be entertained by me. So we'll get going into small groups, and we do have guided facilitated questions for you as well in those groups. So when Beth puts your group in, hit that link and you will be magically transported So scroll into the chat and see your name, and that is the group that you have been randomly assigned to through the joys of having teams. So in breakout room 1, Kurt is the facilitator, and we have Abby Fry, Ariane Curtis, Amy Cruz, Ann Sheldon, Becky Reniger, and Brian Billings. And has everyone headed to their group? So we have 5 groups. Group 5 is Sarah Watson, Sylvia, Rim, TK, Todd Stanley, Tanya, and Veronica Williams-Payne. Group 4 is facilitated by Maria, and that's Kara Copeland, Karen Rumley, Chrissy, Melanie, Rachel, and Rhonda. Group 3 is facilitated by Sarah Lee, and that's Emily Crabtree, Erica, Jackie, James, Jean, and Jennifer Detmer. Room 2 is facilitated by Mike, and that's Christina Gully, Christina DePascal, David, Denise, Diane Oplinger, and Donna Ford. And group 1 is Kurt, and I already said those names. Sarah says, Beth, that somebody has to let her in the room. Is our facilitator, and Sarah is the facilitator, I believe. So is there a way that we can help her get in? And those who are back must be our observers. You are free. It doesn't take up bandwidth because we're in a smaller group. Would you like to show your camera or come online? You're welcome to do that. I'm just responding to somebody who sent me a text. Hello, Pamela. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm okay. How are you?
Oh, you know what? It's fun being in virtual world, although I'm not used to wearing a shirt and tie anymore. So I'm like,
yeah. Makes you wonder how you did it for so long, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So
we, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, what do you do and what made you interested in observing today?
Well, I work for the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Mm-hmm. And so we are doing a lot to kind of work with the partnership with the schools, and we were going to start with the gifted program in our district. And so that was one. And then my son's actually in the gifted program too. So I was just curious on a personal note too, to kind of see what these conversations sounded like and looked like.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. So when I was given this task last year, I let the Gifted Advisory Council kind of give me the direction, like, what do you want to do? What don't you want to do? Mm-hmm. And where do you want to go? And we realized we needed some clear guidelines. And some of the people had been on for a couple of years. I'm like, we need to rotate because we need to hear all over Ohio, not just Central.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Yeah. So it has been such a fun experience getting to know everybody.
Nice. How long have you been together?
I'm going to say 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it was enacted by law. Mm-hmm. And And I'm going to try to get Sarah into her room real quick. I'm going to email or text Beth. Beth. And poor Beth. Beth is our program administrator, and she's doing double duty today as well. So she organizes all of this, but she's also organizing a webinar all at the same time.
I'm afraid I got lost. I don't know how to get into the group. Sylvia Rim.
Oh, okay. So Sylvia, it is so nice to see you in the flesh.
Thank you.
I'm a boy fan. So all right. So Sylvia, do you see where it says at the top of your screen, show participants, and then there's conversation right next to that?
No, I don't see anything like that.
Okay. Do you see a chat feature?
I see show conversation.
Okay. Click on that.
I just did. Okay.
And scroll up, and you'll see you are the last group. So you'll be the first group that you see. See where it says breakout room 5?
It just says meeting chat. Doesn't say breakout rooms on my.
It'll say, yeah. So it'll say meeting chat.
Yeah.
And then do you see a link where it says breakout room 5, facilitator Jeff Shoemaker?
No, I don't.
Oh boy. All right.
I don't know what to do about that.
Well, you can stay and visit because I get Sylvia Rim. Sylvia Rim is here. Let me see if I can get Beth to help you too.
I'm really not too good at this technology, so.
So for those of you, I'm just going to brag about Dr. Sylvia Rim. So Sylvia is a noted author, child psychologist. And when I was in a previous life in Northeast Ohio, I used to love to be on the road at a certain time because that's when her radio program was on. And I got so much. So I have my oldest daughter is gifted. And oh, did she give me a run for her money, which I used to have gray hair till I shaved it off, and I blame her. So I got a lot of strength from her radio show as well as her books, and it really helped. You know, Sylvia, your message about gender. Oh my God! So when my daughter was in middle school, very bright, obviously she's gifted. One day, I don't know why, we were at the kitchen table. She didn't need much help with her homework, but she was doing something with math. And she starts twirling her hair, which was a new, like she never had done that. She was in 7th or 8th grade, I think. She starts twirling her hair and she's like, I don't know much about math. I about lost it because I'm like, oh no. I read it was coming. Where girls were going to dump themselves down. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But it did. But she eventually got out of that. So
I'm sure she's doing well now.
Oh, yeah.
Making her contribution. That's what we're trying to help them do.
Yes.
Hi, Joe. This is Beth. If someone was trying to get into Sarah Lee's group, there was a setting that had toggled off, and I was unaware of it, that would allow folks to join. So you can try again if you were in Sarah's group. I think it was group 3.
All right. And Sylvia's stuck and can't get into her group, and she's
I don't know how to get into the group. Is there something else I should be touching or hitting? I just, but all I see is meeting chat when I do the other. Is it showing the meeting details? No, that's not it.
No. So it is in meeting chat, and then off to the right, once you get that, there's a little like marker that scrolls up. If you scroll up, you can get into a chat room.
Really? Huh. I'm trying to scroll up and it's not scrolling, so I'm not sure what I'm doing.
Well, it's just great to have you here.
Thank you. I'd like to participate, darn it. Oh.
Uh-oh, now somebody shared a screen. I have no idea. Oh, thank you, Beth.
Okay, now I see the screen.
Okay, so if you're looking at your screen, up here is your chat. Do you see where I'm pointing?
Yes, I see that.
Okay. So if you click there, that will open the chat.
That opened the chat.
See how my chat just opened? over on the right.
Oh, that's very different than what I had before.
And then if you roll up, there's your group. You would roll up in the chat until you see your name and click that
So
link.
do I click on that?
When you get into your chat and scroll up, yes.
Scroll up. Okay. Let's see.
You should see what I'm seeing.
Breakout room. Let's see.
And you're in breakout room 5.
Yeah. So do I click on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And you're going to get whisked away. So thank you for being here.
Okay. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
I hope it works.
I do too.
I'm doing it, but nothing's happening. I'm not getting whisked away. Let's see. Maybe this is not getting whisked away. I'm not sure why.
So you won't click on it in the screen that you're looking at right now of mine. You will go into chat up here on your own screen.
And I lost it again now. You said it was way up at the top in the chat.
Do you see where I'm pointing with my little...
Yeah, I saw it for a while and then it disappeared. It says show conversation.
So if you click there, you'll go over your chat.
I see meeting chat again.
And that's my screen you're looking at. So you'll go to your screen and do this.
Yeah, I just can't find it. So I'm afraid I'll have to, I just don't know what to do about that. Yeah, I have, oh, here I have it now. Breakout room 3. And I'll keep going up. Let's see, 3.
And you want to scroll up until you get to breakout room 5, because that's where you are.
When I scroll up, I lose, it doesn't go any further than 3. That's what's strange.
So there's a little, I don't even know what you call it, I guess a moving bar way off to the right. It looks like on my screen it's gray. And if you click on that and move up, you can move up through the chat.
So it's gray, did you say?
Yes.
I see. Let's see. I see a camera up there. I see a star. I see Google Maps select. No. Open new tab. Extend.
No, you don't want to do that either.
None of those. It just doesn't go any further than the chat is there, but it doesn't show me. It just.
I have the same problem.
Yes, I have Sarah Lee, guest breakout room 3, facilitator Sarah Lee. That's the only one of the chats that shows up.
Okay.
But I don't know why. I mean, I'm going back and forth. Anything at the, there's some things at the bottom. Does that help me?
No.
No.
If you go into, let's say that very thing at the bottom, hover your mouse right over that. So you probably have an arrow and start. What does your mouse look like? Does it have a little scrolly wheel?
Well, my mouse is just like a regular mouse, but I can move it. Yes, it has a scrolly wheel.
Scroll up with that and see if that.
It doesn't seem to work, the scrolling.
Oh, all right.
There's an arrow at the bottom. Does that help me any?
It might. That arrow and scroll up.
Dr. Ram, I just pasted your link into the chat. So if you're in your chat, the very last item.
Yes.
Do you see that?
I see that, yes. Can I do that?
That's your link.
Okay, I'll try it. Thank you, Elizabeth. Beth.
You're welcome. Bam, it worked.
Boom. All right. Right. So I'm interested in some of our other people that are here. So Pam had shared a little bit of her story. Does anybody want to share what made you interested in coming today? Don't all speak at once. It's a shy group. All right, so I can see I got to start calling on people then. All right, randomly, Amy Wilson is in the house. Amy, would you like to share, or would you like to remain off camera and shy? Off camera and shy it is. All right. Kim Jones. Okay. I think you're it. You're the only one sharing, Pam. That's all right. Lynn.
That's
Mullins?
unfortunate.
I'll just share. I work for the North Central Ohio ESC, and so I'm just here as kind of a representative of our small group of gifted consultants.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I recognized your name. I don't know why, right? But I'm at that age where I like recognize everybody's name. You know, we
Well,
either cross paths or we've been in some meeting together. So thank you. Glad you.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Donna.
Me?
Yeah. Donna Guest. That's what
Yes.
shows up on my screen. Donna Guest.
Yes, I'm a guest. Good morning, everyone. I'm a gifted coordinator at the Mahoning County Educational Service Center, and same, just wanted to be part of it. And last year I was a teacher in district and didn't get the opportunity to apply for the advisory. So just glad to network and see everyone. So thank you for the invitation.
Oh, we're glad you're here. And
thank you.
I meet with the Mahoning County directors tomorrow. So.
Oh, nice. Wonderful.
Yeah, I go to the meeting once a month, whether they want it or not. There, so.
Yes. Are you coming to Curriculum Council?
No. I can never do that. Just the directors.
Nice. Awesome.
It's always a scheduled thing, and I'm just like everybody else, it's back-to-back meetings.
Oh yes.
I have 30 minutes of a break today, so.
Oh wow, we'll use every minute.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
So Donna, have you met Lynn before?
I had not. I think I've seen Lynn. So Erica has kind of led the gifted coordinators across the state getting together and just networking, and I'm fairly certain I've seen her there.
I think yeah.
I was gonna say your face looks familiar now that I see you. I'm not very good with names. I'm more of a face person. So yes.
Yeah. I'm with you.
That's our connection, but it's been really great. I think good things coming from virtual is we're able to be together a little bit more that way.
Yeah, and it certainly saves everybody driving 2.5 or 4 hours, depending where you are in the state, to Columbus.
Yeah.
Suzanne, would you like to share who you are, why you're interested in coming today? You do not have to, it's totally optional. All right, and that's fine. And then Joe Drew. Thank you for being here. Would you like to share? Okay, so I'm kind of curious, were any of you here last time? And if you were, you can give me the hand signal, the hands up, like you have something to say, or you can just come on camera and nod your head. Oh, Suzanne, yay. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so one of the things that we have been talking about, we started this last year, is looking at our equity data as a state regarding gifted education for, the feds always call it marginalized groups. I'm not sure I like that, but I like underserved better. So our Black students, economically disadvantaged students, and how we identify, and that's identification has always been tricky, especially if you're giving a one-on-one administered psychoeducational battery, which doesn't always have the best norms other than for white middle-class students. And just wondered if that was everybody else's experience as well. So hopefully you'll all come back to the next meeting too, despite our technology challenges today, and continue to observe and even think about applying next year. So what we do with our Gifted Advisory Council is we have half a group stay on and half a group come off, even though they might apply again. And so we're in, I think, year 3, Suzanne, I don't remember. For this original group that's on, some of those members will go off, and then we'll put out notification for next year for applications. And we work with the gifted chair and to, brainstorm who comes on the council. We like to look at a variety of stakeholders and across the state in a variety of positions. So we have superintendents on, we have gifted intervention specialists, parents. I believe we have a principal or 2 in the group this year as well as a university professor, and Sylvia Rim, who I just can't even believe she applied. So I think that's awesome, and she's going to help us out quite a bit. Does anybody have any other questions about the function of Gifted Advisory Council? Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. 3 years seems about right. Yeah. So I've been here a year and a half, and I think the council was already in existence. I know it hadn't been too long. So I'm kind of interested too in just getting input from whoever here or whoever feels like talking. What do you think of the idea of a gifted strategic plan for Ohio? You can put it in the chat. You can come on and just say good idea or bad idea. I'm just interested in hearing what you have to think about that. In the field of education, this is called wait time.
Yeah, I'll say something.
Thanks,
Pam. Okay, sure. It's really a question for your question. What do you hope to accomplish with a strategic plan?
It seems like that's a great question, and the universe has given me the ability to use hundreds of thousands of words instead of like bullet points. So I'm going to use hundreds of thousands of words. It's not just one thing, but it's many things. I would like a concentrated plan that we can all agree upon, that this is where we're going to put our focus as a state, as it relates to our students identified as gifted, and use it to affect policy legislation. So that's what I want. We don't really adequately fund it, but of course we don't adequately fund education in the state anyway. And there are some things that I think, when you legislate some things, it makes it hard to enact change. What I would like to do is, grab people by the heart to say, this is why we need to change. This is why we need to do something different. And put the faces of our children out there, or their stories out there, as opposed to, and I love data, ask Beth, I love data. Data tells a story, but it tells a story if you're really into data. If you're not into data, a bar graph is just pretty colors and pretty shapes. So that's why I want to put in some stories so that people can feel it and hit those people that think with their heart. So that's my goal. Lynn, do you have something you'd like to share? You're muted.
I'm trying. There, I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just, I agree with you as far as having something that we have to be focused on. And I don't know what to say. I think putting the faces and the stories out there is a good idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, and I want the council to direct us as to, and I just use those really bad examples, but if we're going to use equity as our vehicle, then what about equity are we going to look at? Or if we're going to look at things like, we want to improve assessments and evaluations. What does that look like? And what is our goal for that? So to really begin going through that strategic planning process, and that will take us over a couple of years. That's the hard part. We're doing something very similar for our students in special education. So I've been here 18 months, and that process started a good year even before I got here. And it's finally at a point where we have a plan, we have a report, it's with our communications team to edit and make it slick. And that's been about 2 years, 2.5 years. So we're not going to solve it. We're not going to move as fast as I know people want. But when we're really studying something about equity, you really have to understand the why about equity and dig deeper into it, other than to say we underrepresent students of color. Okay, but before we can come up with a solution, we have to understand why. Why does that happen? How does that happen? We underrepresent students who are economically disadvantaged regardless of color. Why? So that was a really, see, I told you, lots of words to say it.
I like words. I can get behind that.
All right.
When you say equity, what are you referring to specifically?
So our data shows that equity in education is important, and there's been a history of discrimination in our country, really against almost any subgroup. Didn't matter who you were, Italian, Irish, German, African Americans. And so as we began looking at our data, we began looking at this from a lens of equity in terms of appropriate identification or lack of identification of, and I use the word Blacks because that's what the federal government calls it. They don't say African American. So our Black students are not represented equitably in gifted education compared to their population. Our economically disadvantaged students are not identified. We have females who aren't identified. So, when we look at that through that lens, that's what I mean by equity and how we identify and who ends up in our gifted and talented programs. So I saw a G flash and it just says guest. So guest, you are welcome to come on camera and share why you're interested in being here or where you work. And I don't think you're muted, but I just see a G flashing, which means that you maybe clicked something or you have something that you would like to share. Or not. Oh, Pam, that's a great question. Do the identification processes vary by district? That's one of those questions that you can answer no or yeah. There are processes and procedures set that districts are to follow, and it's not the issue I've always had, even when I had gifted underneath me in one of my previous lives, is that there's no mandate to serve in Ohio. So we have some districts that you have to identify, but you don't have to serve. And I know that's been a sticking point with the Ohio, yeah, same face, yeah, with the Ohio Association for Gifted Children. And we also have, you know, Ohio is a locally controlled state, so each district locally controls what they do. And we also are in a time period right now where people want less regulation and more control. So I know Ann has fought the good fight, being the lobbyist, and I know it's not always been easy, but good things have happened through this fight, though, like having a gifted advisory council. You know, I think this is awesome, and we're trying to do that with and develop some other advisory councils now because this has been so successful. So one for related services, and that's a related service or like speech pathologists, school psychologists, occupational physical therapists. We want to do an advisory council for them as well. Keep the questions coming. Those are great questions. And in fact, what I can do, let's see. I'm at that age where I can't type and talk at the same time. I can do one or the other. So what I'm going to do is put in the chat a link to the Gifted Advisory page that we have on our website. And you can see the purpose of the council is to assist in the development and updating. Actually, I could share my screen. That's even easier. All right, so here's the purpose right here. So it's interesting. I was all excited to do this last year, number 3. We had a representative group all ready to go to serve as advisors in establishing criteria for review of innovative gifted service plan, gifted services. And yeah, the pandemic stopped that cold in its tracks. So we'll see what happens this year. But you can see that, you know, the purpose of the council is to do all of the things that we're doing. So Pam, you had said that you worked at Fairfield County ESC?
The County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just funny because, you know, our whole realm kind of revolves around the idea of inclusion and getting people integrated, or not just integrated because that's not the right word, but included into their communities, whether that be at school, at home, at church, whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's just so funny that in order to get attention or funding or services, proper services, you have to segregate. And I think that that's such a dichotomy that I don't feel like, how will we ever reach true inclusion when, in order to really properly service all kids, you have to segregate them into these subgroups. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. So I just, I don't know if that battle will ever be won, to really get everybody to be properly serviced in one classroom or a learning environment, whatever that looks like. Maybe not a classroom, but.
You know, I think it will. You know, I remember when I was in college when the first special ed rules passed in the mid to late 70s. And I think, you know, where we used to be, right? I mean, the goal was just to get kids in the door with disabilities. And we got them in the door and sure they were segregated in basements or trailers. And it was get them Remember mainstreaming? It was get them mainstreamed. And, you know, we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. And and some of it, I think as special educators, we've done it to ourselves. When the model was set that, well, only we know how to deliver specially designed instruction. When I've worked with some great gen ed teachers who could do it, you know, so we do have a ways to go, but I think we'll get there, maybe. But that's part of what our plan that we're working on, called Each Child Means Each Child, part of our state strategic plan, and we have to have a change, a philosophy change in how we view students with disabilities. And that's mild disabilities to the more significant cognitive disabilities, and what that can and should look like. I think we'll get there. I'm hopeful. I know the feds don't like that we have DD programs.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, you know, there's so much research behind just kind of how antiquated the classrooms are, and how times have changed, yet the education system seems to be it's really hard for that to kind of change with the rest of that.
Yeah. And I was wondering, you know, with as horrible as this pandemic is, I mean, let's face it, it's awful. Is it going to lead to some substantive changes, though?
Hopefully, in some respects, I agree.
Yeah.
Especially in the realm that we are in, just because on one hand, I think it's been an awakening for a lot of people with disabilities who lack the social support that we've always known they lack, but now it's like glaring, and the deficits are really bad to watch. So I think some of those things, but then opening up this whole virtual world and the accessibility that everybody has to other people. If you don't have transportation, or you don't have, you know, all these other things that maybe are in the way, I think it's kind of opened the eyes to some of those possibilities, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is one of those days. I'm sorry, I keep on getting texts. So, you know, just like in a district or in your world, you know, things catch on fire. This is one of those days. I asked somebody yesterday if there was a full moon, and they checked. It's not till the end of the month. Right. So do any of our other guests have anything that they would like to talk about or have questions about?
It was nice. Joe came on for a hot second. That was kind of cool.
And then he's escaped, or he turned into one of the generic guests. All right, so I'm going to annoy Suzanne now. So Suzanne, I know your mic's not working, so put this in the chat. How are services going in Worthington? And more importantly, are you okay? How's everybody doing? You know, the scary part, I know Ohio is just catching up with numbers. My wife watched the governor's press conference yesterday. We had 25,000 cases. Wow. How are we all not going to get it?
I think they've always said that it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Really.
And I don't know if I'm going to get the vaccine. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to require it of state employees, but I'm afraid to get it. I got to see it like trialed first. just remember when the first flu vaccine came out, I think it was the mid to late 70s, but I'm not sure. And people died from it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's some real fear, I think, in that.
Yeah.
Skepticism, yeah. It's kind of like anything. It's don't trust the first round, like technology, or like don't buy the first thing that comes out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like when you get a car, don't buy the first version of the first model.
First model, right. Yeah. Wait for the updates.
Yes. Yeah. All right, that fires out, maybe. All right, I think we just lost somebody. They had enough. They either went to a group or they're like, okay, we're done now staring at the old guy. So anybody else have anything that they would like to talk about or share? Or you're more than welcome to listen to Pam and I talk. All right, I have a G and your mic is on, but that's all I can tell. And it's flashing. All right, this is guest. Oh, we lost him again.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, so I really appreciate this, and I'm really fascinated by what's going on. I would like to ask does anybody know how many gifted programs there are in districts across the state of Ohio? Does anybody know yet?
I know we have the data, but I don't have access to it right now, but we can certainly get that.
Well, ballpark, do you have an idea? Just I'm just curious because I wonder how they're going to react to all this. Are they going to buy into it, or are they going to say, "Wait, we have a model. We don't want to change." That kind of thing.
They might.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll drag them along, kicking and
yeah. Yeah. The other question I had to ask, I came in late to the channel. What are the 5 breakout groups? Can you just briefly tell me what they are?
The breakout groups?
Yes.
Sure. So what the breakout groups are doing is they're looking at today. Last time they looked at some data. This time they're looking at when we move forward with strategic planning, what are our work groups going to look like?
Okay.
What are going to be our topics that we want to move forward? And also, how are we going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to help us with that structure.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. So what's your interest in coming today?
I'm a former educator. I was a professor at Kent State University for 35 years. And I dealt with
35 years. What were you, like 12 when you started?
No. But anyways, I had worked a lot in program evaluation, program analysis. That was my area, and I also worked a lot with physically disabled students with physical disabilities, and was concerned about getting them integrated into various programs. And I was happy to hear there's somebody on there that deals with developmental disabilities. I dealt mostly with physical disabilities, spinal cord injuries, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think oftentimes people say we want to be inclusive and we're going to be diverse, and diversity seems to stop at where you say, well, race, ethnicity, income, that's diversity. And then they seem to leave out the students who are disabled. And I think they are the ones who are really challenged, and they may have multiple challenges. So I'm glad to hear that somebody's talking about that. My other personal is a personal interest. I have a grandson who's in Upper Arlington, and he's quite bright, quite bright. There's no question about that. And they do not have a gifted program. And so I was wondering about that. Here's a community that's fairly well-to-do, established community, to upper middle class, and they don't have it. I just seems to me that this lack of gifted programs runs the gamut across different districts. So, anyways, I was just interested in seeing what's going on here with this. So there's a couple of reasons why I'm interested. Thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, we're glad you're here. Did you come last time?
I missed last time. I'm retired, but I'm taking care of grandkids. So, I'm working harder than ever.
Oh, yeah. Now, do you also live in Northeast Ohio?
I do. I live in Kent, Ohio.
Oh, yeah. I just moved from Stowe, so.
Oh, I know the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it well.
Yeah.
You're in Columbus now?
Yeah. Westerville.
Oh, it's nice. Okay.
Yeah,
very nice.
But yeah, work in Columbus. So
sweet.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Columbus is, it's only 2.5 hours from where we were, where we lived. It's a whole different world down here.
Yeah, it's an exciting city. It's a young city.
Yes, and so much building going on. So, where we lived in Northeast Ohio, there's not much new construction going on. New neighborhoods here and there. Streetsboro had some, but here, holy mackerel, it's
booming.
All over the place.
Yeah, I think those the research shows that states that have the capital building also has a state university in the capital, seem to do very, very well in terms of attracting a lot of people, educated people, and what have you, and definitely businesses. So, well, I think I've talked too much already. So,
you have
not. Well, I welcome you, Joe, because I was the only one talking. So it was nice to have somebody else chat.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to touch on something that you mentioned because it's so true how the population of people with disabilities is left out of a lot of demographic attention, but they've always been left out. And I don't believe it's their challenges that, because that's the only, that they're known for their challenges. You know what I mean? Like that's the only way they get support and services is to be disabled enough, right? But it's the potential that I feel like is always been overlooked from the beginning of time, is that they've just never been viewed as part of the general population because they are viewed with the potential to be part of the population.
Yeah, and you wind up basically eliminating a large group of very, very talented kids.
Absolutely.
Smart, very smart. And they have disability sometimes gives them sadly, but it gives them time to work on school and other projects, and you just need to have the access to do that. One of the things that we worked on for years, got a grant from the state to build a disability so that students who are vision impaired, deaf or hard of hearing, I think I mentioned spinal cord injuries, could basically access this technology, online technology, as well as coming to class. And I feel really good about that. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot. From these students. So that was cool. That's always rewarding. But I really wonder why the definition of a disability is, or I'm sorry, what do I want to say? I want to say that the idea of diversity and equity typically precludes these people, this class of students, and I have trouble wrapping my head around that. I really do. Again, well, I mean, they always say you can judge a society by how they treat the poorest of their, or the worst off of the citizens. And you wonder if building something like that. Oftentimes, I found that making things accessible to these students makes it even more accessible to other students without disabilities.
right? Universal learning, absolutely.
Yeah, if there is someone out there that doesn't have a disability, I don't know who they are, but
we all are. We just haven't all been diagnosed, right?
Right. You know, and of course, along that goes labeling, which creates another kind of problem. You know,
which is kind of what I was talking about with the gifted, or anything really, but like it's not so much that I'm worried that more gifted programs don't exist. I'm more worried about why classrooms don't teach to every student. And that's probably why I have a hard time with just creating more labels and more needs for that segregation. Like my son, who was recently tested into the gifted program because they use tests here. But he had to change schools, and so all of the social connections that he had made are then severed because of that. And so I don't know how they're all organized, but it was just sad for me because he really enjoyed the school he was in. It was in our neighborhood. And so it was just, I could see that segregation happening. You go to this school where these kids go versus our district embraces is that all kids learn differently. They all are at different rates, and we're going to teach to that.
Yeah. My other grandson is, I think I mentioned earlier, was in STEM school, you know, at the medical school here in Northeast Ohio. And he had to leave his school, the Kansas City schools, and move to that Shalesville. It's a small town where they have that program at the medical school. So he had to change school, and all his social connections were broken fast. You know, so I don't know. But we made it.
And the social component. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, go. I'm done.
I was just going to say, it seems like the social component, it's not necessarily the educational component that segregates, but it's a social component that does. And so it's like, that just makes it so much harder than to have to start all over again.
Here.
That's the deficit, is that social component, I think.
You guys, you both speak a lot of truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily align, though, does it, with everything that you guys are going for here?
No, it does not. so you know, change is slow, and it's going to be hard for some people to change that as well, and that mindset. You know, and some of it, I think, decisions are made based out of fear. Like, I don't know how to have those kids in my classroom. And I was having a conversation yesterday with an intervention specialist who had done had shared some of the neat things that she had done, but it was more around the realm of education and getting teachers to accept the students as part of their class. And once they got over the fear and saw that they were just as capable of working with a student as the intervention specialist was, that changed things. It changed the trajectory for the student and the mindset of the teacher. And then that mindset slowly builds with the other teachers as well. I know it's happening. It's not systemic, but it's happening in spots.
That's encouraging. That's cool.
Yeah. And I think there's also fear of, you know, when I think of, like, in one of my previous lives, I was in an area in which the DD had basically stopped services to school-age students. And so the district I was in was a hub district. And we had students, you know, tube fed, at that time, slant boards. I mean, to me, it was, okay, no big deal. And it became no big deal. But I know in other places, it's like, oh, what do we do? It's not that tough.
Yeah, we still operate a school. The county board does.
Yeah.
That for, you know, so it's that's always a topic of conversation, is how do we prepare schools so that kids can just be with other kids, and these things that get in the way, these barriers, do not keep that from happening. But wow, it's some good tough conversations, but they have to happen, right?
They do, and I know it's happening across the state. So, so it looks like some of our groups are returning, and that's awesome. And I would say we remain on our schedule, so you all have about 5 minutes or so to take a break, and we will come back as a group at 11:50. Good time to use the restroom or get up or listen to the Joe, Pam, and Joe show. Ah, my new retirement plan.
Pam and JoJo.
Yeah, there you go. Or Pam and Joe
You cut me
Square.
so quick. Yeah.
The Pam and Joe Squared show. I like that. I think we can market this. We'll give Sylvia
right.
Sylvia Rim a run for her money. So group 4 is returned. Jeff's group is back. I think we're getting really close, but we'll start up at 11:50. And for 10:50, 11:50. No, it is 11:50. Wow, time has flown. We'll start at 11:50, and so we got 3 minutes. So feel free to get a beverage or a snack. Group 2 is back. Thanks, Diane. Hey, Beth, what's it mean if somebody's on hold? Does that mean that they're waiting to come in, or does that mean that they're still in their group?
It means they're still in their breakout, yeah.
Okay.
In Zoom. Yes. I better turn my camera off.
Sylvia, I'm glad you made your way back.
Yes, thank you. That was very nice. Thanks for your help. I was glad to know I wasn't the only one who struggled finding the room.
Group 3 is in. Great. We will wait one more minute.
Okay.
Thanks, Sarah, for letting me know. And we will start up again as soon as the time on my laptop says 11:50. It's 11:50, and we're all back. Woohoo! Okay. It's like having the family over for a holiday dinner virtually. All right. So this part of the agenda gets turned over to our chair, Sarah Lee and Maria. So I'm going to mute myself and go off camera and turn it over to them.
Hello. So each of the breakout groups has had a chance to kind of go through the various questions. I know some of those questions are kind of big and broad, but I know if your group was anything like my group, you had a lot of really wonderful, robust discussion around there. Our next steps with this is we will compile the information and the notes from the various breakout discussions, and we will use that to start looking at what are those common discussion points and topics, and moving forward with beginning that, the framework, if you will, for kind of what our next steps are going to be for planning the plan and developing Ohio's strategic plan for gifted education. So just like last time, we'll make sure get that information so you can see all the specific discussions around the various breakout groups and the various breakout group discussions that we had. And then when we come back next meeting, we'll hopefully have some things in place for you guys to react to that kind of stemmed from those breakout groups. So, all right, that was very fast.
That's awesome. I'm kind of curious, and I don't know if you have this, if you're able to do this right now. What were some of the topics of discussion, or at least if you want to share in maybe your group, Maria?
Sure, I can absolutely share some of what my group talked about with the first question. I know that there was a discussion around making sure that as we're going through and developing this, we want to make sure we're really clear on what it is we're looking for, making sure that we have the full context of what's happening and what's occurring across the state and in a variety of districts. Making sure that, and even kind of thinking of, is there a way for us to have, like a decision framework or kind of like a one needs or gifted where, as we're looking, at districts are looking at data, or we're looking at district-specific data, that they have a way to help make decision with things. Okay, so if we're looking at data that looks like this, that means that, here's something we need to consider, those types of things. As far as engaging stakeholders, looking at district administrators, not just those who are gifted coordinators. Obviously, gifted coordinators would be an important stakeholder group, but also making sure that we're engaging with district administrators and decision makers who are outside of gifted, the general education teachers, particularly those who are responsible for serving gifted students, would be an important group, in addition to gifted intervention specialists, parents, ESC personnel, psychologists, school psychologists, gifted coordinators, other gifted personnel, gifted intervention specialists, for example, school counselors, those types of things. Engagement, one of the comments, that we discussed was engagement might be a little tricky. So how, particularly in light of current circumstances. So, how do we move forward with that? Potentially surveys, and maybe different surveys for different stakeholder groups. Also open forums, regionally, at the state level, those types of things. Because we want to make sure that we have a sense of, what's actually happening versus maybe what's just being reported as happening. Some of the focus areas for work groups were identification, high quality professional development, services, referrals, and then, the group talked about how it can be good to start broad, and then as the work groups are going through, that can kind of help us to narrow down things within identification, things within high quality professional development and service, to, you know, and to help us kind of refine what it is. But starting broad can work, and then narrowing it down. So yeah, that was a very high level overview.
Oh, that's awesome. So thanks. And unfortunately, we're coming close to time, and I do want to respect everybody's time. But if one of the other groups wants to talk about, let's talk about possibly the groups and grouping of things, you know, things for our small groups. If you can do it in 30 seconds or less, even better. Everybody's going to be shy. All right, Sarah Lee, could you do it? Crickets. Sure.
Sorry.
That's all right.
The video, not the microphone. Are you talking stakeholder groups?
Yes.
Okay, we said parents, educators, and administrators, but we also said higher education when it comes to like HQPD stuff.
What about some of the topics that should go in a strategic plan? Did you guys get a chance to get to that part?
We talked about some of that, but I don't have my notes up here right now.
Oh, that's right.
But just, we kind of talked about like, where is our starting point? And there were so many issues we went around with that like we couldn't figure out where our starting point would be. So, so we just listed a lot of the issues we see that need to be resolved and things that need to be discussed. So.
That's great. And then what we can do is we'll get together at, in the office, and we'll start grouping and theming together. And then at our next meeting, we'll pull these out and share them with everybody and talk about what our foci, is that the plural, focus, it needs to be as we start building this plan. Great. Well, we have 3 minutes left. Is there anything else that anybody would like to share for the good of the cause? Any other questions that need to be addressed that we can either answer in 2 minutes or less, or get back to our team via email? A new message. Let's see, it'll be exciting. All right, so Beth put in the Survey Monkey. And Beth, would you also mind would you also just send it? Well, I don't know. Should we also send it out as an email, or can everybody get to it from this link?
Yes, I'll send it as an email.
Okay. Oh, it says you already have taken this survey. So whoever took the survey, yay.
That was just me testing the link that I popped in, and I did already take it. I tested it. So when others click it, they shouldn't see that.
All right, super. And Melanie typed in the chat, we discussed the importance of keeping an equity lens in all of our work. Thank you. I think that almost needs to be our focus, doesn't it? Maybe that's becomes our overarching principle that we work with. I don't know, just a thought. Something to ruminate for the next 2 months when we get back together, February 24th. All right, thank you all for your time and effort. Thank you for what you do for our students. You make a difference each and every day, whether you're a parent, an administrator, intervention specialist, or gifted coordinator. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for this work going forward, and it's going to have a tremendous impact on our students. So thank you. Be safe, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, and stay healthy. Wear a mask. All right, bye. Thank you for coming.